From one street circuit to another, welcome back ladies and gentlemen to Aero League Racing Tier 3. My name is Aman and you all join me today for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. A circuit well known for its high speeds and sharp turns, the Baku Street Circuit consists of 20 corners, 12 of those to the left and the remaining 8 to the right. 2 DRS zones allowing cars to reach up to maximum speed of 350 km per hour, so it's safe to say that we have an action-packed race in store for us today. But with time winding down, there's not really much more else any other driver can do. O'Leary, currently sitting in P10, will be looking to definitely improve. He is up by 3/10. We'll see where he puts himself. He has managed to set a purple Sector 3. Now O'Leary coming towards the DRS zone. Is 3/10 up on his time. May he be looking to upset any of the drivers in front of him? We will have to see. DRS wide opens as he approaches the finish line, and he manages to set a 141.2 and manages to promote himself up into P5. That'll drop down the Cunning Fern into P6. And by the looks of it, it doesn't seem like any other driver is going to be completing their run or be managing to set any competitive lap times. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, a big congratulations goes to Groen, who has set provisional pole and actually has taken pole position here at Azerbaijan. CRF in the Ferrari as his teammate manages to get P2. Abmo in the McLaren upsetting mini turns and keeping himself up into P3. And the mini turns and O'Leary round off your top 5. Right, ladies and gentlemen, as all the cars begin to line up on the grid, we are all set to get the Azerbaijan Grand Prix underway. Groen has now managed to take pole position. He is your championship leader. Will he be able to maintain the lead? We will have to see. There are red lights on the board. There's 5 red lights. It's lights out and away we go here at Azerbaijan. CRF manages to get a decent start, but not good enough. It seems like Abmo has been very heavily compromised, possibly due to the hard tire compounds. And CRF has actually been overtaken by mini turns. So CRF drops down into P3. Looking down the grid, we can see, Abmo is actually driven straight into the wall there. So those hard tires definitely not helping him out in this current stage. O'Leary has managed to promote himself up into P4, Pasti in P5, Abmo in P6, Cunning Fern in P7. And Trems in P8. And actually, as a matter of fact, looking up the grid, we can see Groen has completely spun out there. What happened with Groen? He's gone completely into the runoff area, possibly missed his braking point, and now's dropped down all the way into P18. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, your race leader for this current stage is the mini turns. Obviously, no DNFs just as yet, so there hasn't been any safety cars out on track, and we can see in the background there, O'Leary may be thinking about making a dive down the inside of CRF. Thinks better of it and tucks right behind him, and as the drivers approach the castle section, for the first time, we'll have to see if there's any incidents getting involved over here. We'll spectate drivers as they come through. Abmo unfortunately going very slow there, possibly due to wing damage, and a bunch of cars actually managing to keep it relatively clean through that section. There doesn't seem to be any driver who's driven into the wall in the castle section, which is very surprising and very pleasant to see. Regardless, mini turns leads this race. O'Leary right behind CRF, not allowing any room to breathe there. Pasti, on the other hand, also closing up very close behind the Red Bull. Maybe trying to tuck into the slipstream behind him. And we can see Trems actually getting into a battle with Vitor. He did seem to go a bit wide into that corner. I'm not too sure what happened there. And Abmo, unfortunately, who's been compromised without a front wing, actually. I didn't even notice that Abmo has no front wing, and that allows Trems and Vitor both to get past him. Meanwhile, Vitor trying to get past the Alfa Romeo of Trems, trying to tuck into the slipstream, possibly making a dive down the inside. We'll have to see about this. They're both side by side going into turn 1. There's 3 cars going wide into turn 1. And Parker, completely out of nowhere, goes up into P5. And that unfortunately compromises Trems, who spins out. And unfortunately for him, that would probably drop him down very far down the grid. As we can see, he's now currently in P15. And as I say that, Tichy's actually right behind Efferson Parker on this occasion. So with DRS wide open, so Tichy now side by side with Parker, chooses to go towards the outside line. Let's see who will come ahead of each other over here. Parker and Tichy going side by side. There's a bit of wheel banging going on between the drivers. They're still side by side heading into turn 2. Who's going to come out ahead? It does seem like Parker's going to dive down the inside and fight this position tooth and nail with the Aston Martin. But that battle is compromising them as Luke seems to be getting very interested. And there is a massive crash in the background there. I'm not too sure who that involved. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have the first safety car of this race. It seems like the Omura got involved in some sort of massive incident there. I'm not too sure if he's lost his front wing or not, but we have the first full-fledged safety car in this race in lap 5 of 26. Lap 8, and now we finally get the update from race control that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. So now it will be up to CRF to bunch up the rest of the grid. His job will be to bunch up the rest of the grid and go at a time that he deems best, obviously trying to catch the Red Bull of O'Leary out. We'll ride on board with CRF to get a better idea of when he decides to go. We've seen earlier in Tier 4 that a bunch of drivers decided to go very, very early on, which didn't seem like to be the most sensible decision, allowing the cars behind them to catch up because of the slipstream. And CRF taking his time. O'Leary seems to be right behind him, does not want to miss the second that CRF gets on the gas. And now, there we go, CRF now full gas. Seems to have caught O'Leary just out there, just a little bit. Tichy, on the other hand, seems to be right on the spoiler off O'Leary. Heading down into turn 1, will he make a dive? A bit too far back on this occasion. We can see the Alfa Romeo of Luke trying to make a move on Pasty. Unfortunately, can't do anything just as yet. And heading down into turn 2, there still doesn't seem to be any overtaking opportunities showing themselves. Trems does manage to get past FX and Parker, who's actually side by side with him on this current occasion. So they're still side by side heading into the next corner. Who's going to come out ahead? It seems like Parker. Oh, they're still side by side going into this corner, and it seems like Parker has driven straight into the wall there. Unfortunately, not enough room to go around the outside, and unfortunately, because of that incident, he decides he goes straight off the track and straight into the wall there. It seems like it's caught Omura out as well, who's now dropped down into P16. DRS wide open. What will Tichy be able to do? He is gaining on O'Leary. Looks towards the inside line. Both cars, the Alfa Romeo and the Aston Martin, going side by side into turn 1. And Tichy manages to promote himself up into P2. Actually, never mind. It seems like O'Leary actually is trying to get the switch back on the Aston Martin and actually tries to drive down the inside. Unfortunately, he has to go over the car over the curbs there. And that doesn't help his run into the next corner. It seems like Miniturn's completely on him. This is for the final podium position. And Miniturn's opts to back out of this corner on this occasion. But O'Leary, despite going towards the inside line, unfortunately does not get a good run through that corner. And now they're coming to a bit of contact there. That does force O'Leary slightly into the wall there. And now Miniturns has been promoted up into P3. Will O'Leary dive down the inside? No, he will not. He's actually coming to contact with one of the cars next to him and now has spun out. And O'Leary has dropped down into P8 and is continuing to drop down and lose positions. And that promotes Miniturns into P3. Trems and Pasty now coming into a battle with each other. The Alfa Romeo and the Haas. And Pasty manages to retain his position of P4. Heading into the castle section, will Trems be trying to make any sort of moves? We'll have to see. Nothing doing yet. Mighty Chumps manages to get a 5-second penalty, being the only driver on the grid who has a penalty at this current stage. Obviously, Tichy's still on those 11-lap-old mediums. Hasn't decided to come into the pits just as yet. But that may change now, as it seems like he's going towards the left, and he is. So Tichy now finally deciding to come into the pits and lap 12 of 26, and that promotes Miniturns up into P2. CRF now being one of the only drivers at this current stage still running their original 12-lap-old mediums. And we have a yellow flag in sector 2 and 3, and that is the Red Bull of O'Leary, who has unfortunately DNF'd from this race. It doesn't seem like there's any more overtakes. It doesn't seem like there's a safety car. Never mind, a full-fledged safety car has now come out. We come towards the end of Sector 2, so let's see if Race Control gives us the update. And they have. Race Control has given us the update that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, we will be riding on board with CRF, whose job is it is to pack up the rest of the grid. And with the safety car coming in at the end of this lap, CRF is going to be trying to catch pointers completely off guard. We can see him weaving back left and right, trying to get some temperatures into his tires. What will pointers be able to do to combat this? CRF hasn't decided to go just as yet. Still pushing it very close to the start-finish line. When will he decide to go? Let's see. Still hasn't gone, and now has decided to go. Has caught pointers massively off guard there. As we look at the back of the grid, there doesn't seem to be any massive overtakes taking place just as yet. Heading into turn 1, Pointers maintains his position of P2. Looking at the back of the grid, Vitor manages to get past the ghosted car of Arctic Squirrel. And heading into the next corner, the Ferrari of Groen and Tichy actually coming together into turn 2, and Groen managing to promote himself up into P3. But that contact over there costed Tichy dearly as he now gets overtaken by Trems. So Tichy will definitely not be happy about that occasion, maybe looking to report. And as we look at the back of the grid, we can see Pasty and Tichy now coming into battle with each other, and Pasty now getting past Tichy. So in the span of a few corners, it seems like Tichy's worst nightmares have come true as he's dropped down massively after the safety car restart. Lap 22 of 26, the Haas and the Alfa Romeo now neck and neck with each other. We've seen this overtake building up for the last few consecutive laps, and it doesn't seem to be any different here. The Alfa Romeo of Trems trying to defend from Pasty. Pasty trying to get past Trems. Oh, and actually, never mind. We have a full-fledged safety car. What has happened here? Seemingly out of nowhere, there seems to be a complete DNF in the form of Vitor. And in lap 23 of 26, we have a full-fledged safety car. I didn't even notice that the safety car was coming out. What happened there? And race control has given the update that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. And now there are 4 drivers, all who are bunched up at this current moment. It is Groen, Pasty, CRF, and Trems. Obviously, the safety car did not have enough time to let the rest of the grid bunch up together. So now it'll be up to Groen to catch Pasty off guard. Both these drivers, however, in P1 and P2 are currently on old mediums. CRF in P3 on fresh softs. Trems in P4 on fresh softs. When will Groen decide to go? He's going to have to cast the grid off massively. As he gets closer towards the pit lane exit, he is still not decided to go just as yet, possibly pushing it to the last possible second. And now Groen has decided to go. Pasty does get caught off slightly off guard there. We can see Trems trying to make a move on CRF, diving down the outside. Will he make the move stick? Let's see over here. CRF defending with his life, but unfortunately Trems does manage to get past him. And the Alfa Romeo promotes himself up into P3. CRF drops down into P4. Pasty cannot catch up to Trems cannot catch up to Groen, but Trems on the other hand looks towards diving down the inside, but thinks better of it. Pasty brakes super late, nearly coming into collision with the Ferrari up ahead of him. So the grid has now closed up massively with each other. Groen and Pasty, the only drivers at this current stage who have not decided to come into the pits and switch on to another tire compound. The gap isn't big. Trems closing the gap to Pasty. He's in the slipstream. The Ferrari right behind them. What will happen here? Let's take a look. Trems goes towards the inside line. What about CRF? He's catching up massively to the Haas ahead of him. It's not going to be 3 wide going to this corner, but CRF is also looking to make an overtake on the cars ahead. And CRF is coming to contact with Trems, and now is coming to contact with every single car next to him. Trems gets massively spun out there by CRF, and now CRF gets promoted up into P2. It seems like the Amora, coming completely out of nowhere, has now been promoted up into P3. A bunch of collisions have taken place, and that has completely shifted the grid order around. Pasty, who was in P2, has now dropped down into P5, getting overtaken by Luke, who drove straight into the wall there. We can see Groen now, the gap to Groen is 1.3 seconds. CRF massively closing the gap to behind him. The Omora right behind CRF on this occasion. CRF now within DRS zone of Groen. Will it be enough? Let's take a look as he enters towards the DRS zone. It doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. And for your race winner at Baku, it is Groen. CRF comes in P2. The Omora in P3. Pasty most likely going to come across the line and finish up in P4. But with his penalty, he drops down massively, with Luke now getting promoted up into P4, Tichy getting promoted up into P5, Pointers getting promoted up into P6, Pasty unfortunately dropping down all the way into P7. Trends now comes across the line and finishes in P8. Mini Turns comes across the line without a front wing, unfortunately, and finishes in P9. And the Naked Champ comes across the line and finishes in P10.